Fire Solutions Forestry. My name's Bill. I'm waiting for a customer to come out. I'll show you what we cut for him. Some southern yellow pine legs for a table out of some old beams that he brought me. He should be here any minute. And I've got another log up on the log deck here. Ralph Alphieri. If you're looking for a good tree guy, Ralph Alphieri Tree Company. If you want to look him up, Alfeiri. He's the one that drops me off most of my logs, and his Medivic log trailer, the decking's coming apart. So I told him, kind of in my travels here, that I'd cut him a new deck for it. We need to cut him 16 foot long, 1.5 inch thick by 10 3/8 wide boards. Is just what this log will pretty much yield to cover the 73.5 inches wide on his deck. And I'm going to take you through how I mapped out the end of this log to just give me a little visual guide as I go, and how it's all going to work out. I'll get the whole deck out of this one log with no problem. And it just makes it simpler for me. This log's cut at 17 foot. And let me take you over and show you the southern yellow pine boards that we cut for Chip Greer, who's coming out to pick them up. And then we've got a whole bunch of other stock to cut for Chip. But these are old. It was old southern yellow pine beam, hard as a coffin nail. They're absolutely gorgeous. They've been drying inside a shop for years. They're nice and dry, and I want to get Chip's boards out of here before it rains. So I'm going to take you along for the ride, and let's see what we can mess up today. All right, I know it's a little bit windy out, so I'm going to apologize for any wind noise, but we're going to cut this apart. I'm waiting on some customers coming out. Just sold all the flitches that I have sitting up on my bench, so I don't have to edge them off. And I want to talk a little bit about how I map my way through a log here. And this is just a guideline for me. This log is fairly symmetrical all the way down. What I need is I'm decking a Medivac trailer for my log guy. Always take care of your log guys. Let me say that again. Always take care of your log guys. So I'm doing 1.5 inch thick boards. I have to cover 73.5 inches wide by 16 feet long. So I have this log cut at 17 foot right now. And what I've done here is I've mapped out from the center of the log. That way you can map it on either the big end or the small end. 10 3/8 inch cant. And 10 3/8, I'd need 7 boards. If I cut through that cant, I'm going to get 6. I've also mapped out 1 board, 1 flitch around the perimeter of that, so that I know that I'll have enough wood to give him to cover his trailer. What I'm going to do is, in a typical cutting pattern, you would cut this top cut here, which is 1.5 inches plus 1/8 outside of my cant. You'd cut your second cut, which would be a flitch, 1.5 inches thick. You'd roll it 90 degrees. You'd make your third cut right here. And then I have 1.5 inch flitch would be your fourth cut. Your fifth cut would be down here. And then 1.5 inch flitch would get me to my width of 10 3/8. And then you would flip this side up on the top, would be your final flip. And you would basically make a top cut, and then you would mill through on scale all the way down. So this is just a guideline of a typical cutting pattern to try to get this entire order out of this one log. Now, if you're a production mill, you don't care about this. You've got a log deck, you roll a log on. It's not big enough for the whole order. You're just going to cut through it. You're going to cut what you get. You're going to make the most sense out of your flitches and everything else and what you're going to sell around the yard. But this just gives you a basic cutting pattern of how I can make sure that I get this whole order out of this one log, and my top cut is measured up at 17 inches. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to make this cut at 17. We're going to see what it cleans up like. Now, I may not take the second cut. If this cut cleans this log up great, and I've got a nice clean top face on this, I might not take this cut. I might just go and turn it. and leave that, because that would give me the option of milling through in this dimension and make sure I have an extra board here. But we're gonna have to see how the wane kind of sorts itself out. You can see my 10 3/8 cant should be fairly wane free. It's well inside the log. And the only place that I could have wane is on these flitches. So I'm gonna just guess that, number one, I'm gonna have plenty of wood. This log's pretty straight and pretty symmetrical, but we're just gonna go ahead and mow through it. We'll see how it comes out. And I just use this as a guideline. While I'm milling, I can take a look at it and just kind of see. What I don't want to do is I don't want to get inside this cant. I want to make sure I have that full and that all I need is one board out of any flitch around the outside, and I complete the order. So that's the goal. This line right here at that cant line is an oh shit line to not go underneath. So if I cut aside and there's some real bad swoop in it or something and I've got to come down, I will come down, but I will not break that line on any of those sides. So that's what we're going to do, and we're waiting for a customer to show up, but let's get at it. All right, so I have you guys backed up against the table. Hopefully the wind doesn't blow you over. That's the best view. I know if I put you anywhere out in the open, you're going to blow over. So we're going to go up to 17. We're going to take a top cut. We're going to see what it looks like, and we're going to get to taking this log apart and getting Ralph a new deck for his trailer. I am running solvent in my tank. I've been running windshield washer fluid, but I cut some southern yellow pine earlier, and it really gummed the band up. So I am running some solvent in with windshield washer fluid. Based on that cut, I'm going to guess that I am going to have to take a flitch off this side. It didn't totally clean up. At this point, it almost doesn't matter if I take it off 1.5 inches or not. See where we came out on my line. I came out a little high. All right, I'm going to take a 1-inch flitch and I'm going to leave this side. So that was at 17. That's going to ruin this board, but it's going to give me room here. I don't need to, it's not going to clean up, so I have to come down a little bit, but there's no sense in taking 1.5 inches because it's not going to be a good board. So I'm going to take 1 inch here. That's going to probably move my whole grid, give my whole grid room to move up. So we're going to come down to 16 and take another cut. I realize that's going to be a 7/8 board. It doesn't really matter at this point. These are just general cuts right now to try to clean this thing up. I am going to throw this flitch in my waste pile on the Bobcat because it's junk. Just looking down the log, this could almost use one more cut here. I could take another inch flitch off this right now. I'm 1 inch down in my grid. There was no good board there, so it didn't make a difference. I've got some weird crook in the log down the end, or weird bark inclusion. I think for cleaning up this face, I think it makes sense to take another 1 inch cut. If you say, why didn't you just take a 2 inch cut or 1.5 inches, it wouldn't have made a difference. It still wouldn't have been a good board anyway. So let's see if we can get somewhat of some kind of usable inch board out of this. I'm going to drop the 15 and take it. This board is going to be this flitch will actually yield a decent edged off board, so I'm going to throw it off the other side to be edged later. And now we've got a nice clean face. We can go ahead and flip it. Now I want to see if I can get this flipped just 90 degrees and get it squared up. It's going to be close here. That's really good. perfect. The reason that I have this here is now I can kind of measure, give myself a general guess. It's about 17 inches to that top line again. So we're going to take it right, see what 17 looks like down here. I'm going to take it at 16. Give myself a little more band support here. Now that I'm kind of breaking into my contingency plan, I'm going to want to be careful. Let's see what we look like. I'm going to come down and take 1.5 inches off this right now. Remember that my log is long, so where my board kind of tapers down here at the end, I've got a foot to play with. I've got at least a 1x8 in this. I'm sorry, 1.5 inches by 8. So we're going to come down 1.5 inches, which in this case has to be 1.5 inches. So I was at 16. I have to come down to 14.5 minus an 8. So 14 3/8. That's where I'm making my cut. And again, this board's going to get edged off later, so I'm going to throw it off the other side of the mill for now. I've got two nice clean faces now. Now I'm going to set my width. The easy part about this is that I don't need my grid anymore. I know that I have to get the 10 3/8 wide. So what I can do here is I can come down to 10 3/8 right now, make myself a mark. Now I'm going to go up 1.5 inches and an 8. I'm going to make another mark. That makes sure I get my board. I'm going to make sure that's 1.5 inches, just that I didn't mess up. Yep. I'm going to take my top cut right there. Then I'll come back and drop down to 10 3/8. And my width's set. Then I can just mill through at the other dimension. This is going to be a heavy slab cut. I'm going to have to take this off in pieces. Now I can come down back, drop down to that 10 3/8, take off another flitch. I know I've got enough wood, and flip it up, mill it out on scale at 1.5 inches. That's the insurance board right there. It's 11 inches wide at the narrowest spot. It's plenty big enough. That gets me all I need. I know I have enough in the camp now. So what we're going to do, I'm going to drop this off the other side of the mill. Yep. We're going to go back. We're going to flip this up. I'm going to set my 1.5 inch scale, and we're going to mill right through it on 1.5 inch scale off the bottom, so we end up with 1.5 inch board on the bottom. something underneath it somewhere. I'm going to raise my toe boards up and take a look. Something holding it up on the side. Yep, that's what it was. All right, we should be able to just put the thing back down. That's beautiful. Put my socks all the way down. Let's go ahead and clamp it. Nice and low. We're going to set our 1.5 scale. So I'm going to come down to 1.5. So my bottom board's going to be 1.5. Set my scale, which is my yellow scale. Now we come all the way up. So I'm going to come down to my first 6/4 mark, and that's at 12 7/8. Shut down my mouth a little bit, and let's mow it out. I know right now we're going to get 7 out of this, so we got a deck covered. If I had been a little smarter about that, I would have dropped down another denomination there. That did not clean up great, but I know I have enough wood. It's going to drop on 1.5 scale because I know my bottom board. I want my bottom board to be 1.5, so I don't care what happens up here. So that was at 12 7/8. Come down, we're going to drop down to the next 6/4 mark. Take it off. At 11 1/4, we'll go back, we'll take another one, then we'll get that off. And shut down my pony motor here. So all I'm doing is dropping down to the next 6/4 mark below 11 1/4 right now. Right there at 9 5/8. 8 inches exactly. If the math works out on that perfect. Well, it's come up 3 francs. The next cut's going to be down at 6 and something. 6 3/8. 1.5 plus an eighth. Perfect. And my next cut's going to be down just below 5. 4 3/4. I've got to take one board off. I'm going to leave it on this side. All the wane is fine. That's going to go down on his trailer. Make sure I have room to walk through. I got to go dump that slab wood before. I'm going to come and pick this whole thing up as a unit. If I take 2 off, I think I'm good. I can finish it. Now I should be able to finish it out. It looks like we did it before the customer showed up. So my next drop's down to like at 3 1/8 to 3. And that should be perfect, 3 1/8 and then 1.5 inches. I am still going to edge off those other 2. I'll give them some extras. Come down to 1.5 inches. Make my final cut. So my bottom board ended up being 1.5 inches. Perfect. And that's how you do it, ladies and gentlemen. Perfect. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boards without edging the other 2, and I will edge the other 2. I will show you the band. The band came out perfectly clean for cutting that pitchy wood, and that is how you map through nice and clean, even for cutting all that pitchy pine right there. Beautiful wood, perfect for his trailer deck, and put his medevac back like brand new. If I was him, I would deck it and sell it and get something better. And like I said, I do have those 2 right there that can be edged down. into 2 more boards. I'll probably just go ahead and do that and give him an extra. But the way that I did this, all the 10 3/8 will fit his trailer deck. If he uses just these 7 boards, they'll fit his trailer deck perfect. I'm going to edge the other 2 too, 10 3/8 also. That way he can't mess anything up. It ends up perfect at his dimension that he's looking for. So that's pretty much it. It's been a kind of a weird day. I've had customers in and out the whole time. I milled off, resawed some southern yellow pine. I had to cut a beam in half for a tiny house, an ash beam. If you look over here, you see that ash beam right there. I had to cut it in half for a tiny house. So they have a nice grayed out beam. The cut side is going to go up towards the ceiling, and they'll have that nice grayed out beam inside the house. They're using it as collar ties, and it's going to be exposed. And that's how we roll. So thank you for the watch, Danny and I. Danny's right behind me over there. Hi, Danny. Always appreciate it. And if you have any questions, hit me up. Doing the guide like that, all it is a reference point for you, so you kind of know where to go and where not to go. I would have rather have done it without those 2 7/8 flitches that I had to take off. However, it's just the way it made the most sense. And as you can see, it's really a 15-20 minute mill job. And this gets him all his decking. This is on the house. This is on me, giving it to him. Oh, I did want to let you guys know that small log order that I did the ramps, those went out this morning too. The black oak 6x6s and 8x8 ramps. Just to let you know, that ended up being a $700 job. At $3 a board foot, and with 2 hours of me cutting the ramp angles and everything perfect for them with my beam saw, ended up being a $700 job. This was a nice payday out of those little logs. That would be good for nothing but firewood. So like, share, subscribe, hit me up with any questions. I answer everything back. And for now, for Danny, who's not paying attention to us, and myself, Aspire Solutions out.